Hi and welcome back to the fifth module in our self-help program for depression. We hope you've gotten started with behavioral activation as presented earlier in the program. Maybe you've already gotten a couple of clues regarding the connection between what you do and how you feel. In this module, we'll proceed with a topic that's more focused on your thoughts. Let's start with an example. Picture Henry, who's been struggling for depression for a long time. To get rid of it, he seeks out a psychologist who starts him on behavioral activation. The goal is gradually re-engaging with positive activities that Henry has stopped due to his depression. But during this work, Henry faces a reoccurring problem. He plans and engages in positive activities, but these don't really help him that much. For example, Henry's at a birthday party with a friend, but it's just like he really isn't there in spirit. During the party, Henry's mind was dominated by rumination, where his mind repeats the same sort of thoughts over and over. I knew this was a bad idea. Why am I so depressed? What am I doing wrong? I gotta get a hold of myself, etc. Instead of the party being a positive experience for Henry, he feels even worse afterwards. This is really a common challenge when engaging in behavioral activation. One engages in planned activities, but one's focus is dominated by repeated and destructive ruminating thoughts. These thoughts aren't helpful. They don't get you any closer to a goal or a solution. Instead, they only serve to drag you down. That's why the management of rumination is a critical feature in this self-help program. What people ruminate on is very individual, but there are some topics that seem more prevalent than others. For example, one may ruminate on why one is depressed. What makes me feel this way? What triggered it? There must be something wrong with me. Why me? Etc. Worries about the future? What's going to happen? How will this end? What if I don't get any better? Worries about the past? Did I say something wrong at the party? I should have acted differently. My past is responsible for my troubles. Self-reproaching thoughts. It's my fault. I gotta get hold of myself. I need to do better. Thoughts of blame towards others. It's all those guys' fault. If only they could get their act together, then I would get better. They can thank themselves. They should seek help, not me. Rumination on a particular obstacle. I gotta fix that sink, but how am I gonna do that? What's gonna happen with all my debt? How should I handle my irritating coworker? I don't know how to figure this out. Let's now look at some good strategies to combat rumination. Strategy number 1. Commit yourself to ending rumination. The important first step is to really commit yourself to ending rumination. It's important to realize that it's a destructive process that can maintain your depressed mood. It can stop your daily problem solving. For instance, it may take you several hours just to answer a few emails because you're constantly distracted by your thoughts. For most people with depression, the period of rumination is associated with the worst mood. Being stuck with rumination is an awful place to be. It can invalidate otherwise joyful activities, just as it did with Henry. Strategy number 2. Register rumination. The next step is to register at what times you are most vulnerable for rumination. Asking yourself these sorts of questions. Is there a particular time of day where I'm most vulnerable to ruminate? Is my rumination triggered by certain activities, for example at work or at school, during meals, by inactivity or isolation, large crowds, achievement settings, etc.? Is my rumination related to other emotions like grief, shame, joy, pain, or envy? Strategy number 3. Focus on your sensations. What's the opposite of rumination? Well, in a way, the opposite of losing yourself inward with rumination is to keep an outward focus on the here and now sensations. People usually report feeling much better in general when they focus on something happening outside of themselves compared to being stuck in thoughts. This is particularly crucial if you're depressed, as your thoughts may be much more negative compared to those who aren't depressed. There are many different ways of refocusing on the sensations if you feel that you're stuck in rumination. For example, by focusing on how your pants feel around your legs. what the wind feels like on your skin, how the colors are projected by the screen, what the food tastes like, the colors of the trees, the facial expressions of those around you, traffic noises, the music, etc. This may feel very unnatural in the beginning. Our thoughts can have a way of hooking us, dragging us along. Mindlessly following our thoughts is the natural state of affairs, but really unfortunate if you're depressed. You should strive to avoid rumination, but be careful to avoid the should trap or setting the bar too high. Small changes are more manageable than large ones. Perhaps set a goal of focusing on sensations for a minute or two each day if you're stuck in rumination. Try to do this refocusing with a friendly attitude, by carefully refocusing while keeping in mind that it can be a very difficult task, especially in the beginning. Strategy number 4. Refocus on the task. Just as we can find ourselves being stuck in ruminating thoughts or attending our sensations, we can also attend the task we're performing in the here and now. You can, for instance, get out of rumination by refocusing on answering emails, cooking dinner, writing, reading, watching TV, bicycling, exercising, the conversation, painting, etc. The general idea here is to gently refocus from inward rumination to outward engagement if you're stuck in rumination. If you're really bothered by ruminating thoughts, then we can recommend doing these sorts of outward refocusing exercises more formally with a meditation form called mindfulness. You can find more information about mindfulness meditation in the video description. Strategy number 5. Distract yourself from rumination. A more low-tech but still effective procedure is to simply distract yourself if you feel stuck in rumination. Turn on the radio, sing a song, recite the alphabet, find words starting with the letter S, play with a dog, exercise, etc. Strategy number 6. Use active problem solving. Rumination is a really poor approach to problem solving. You can think about a problem for hours and hours without getting any closer to a solution. But your life may be filled with real problems that need your attention. A much better alternative is to engage in what we call active problem solving. Here are where active problem solving differentiates itself from rumination. Problem solving is an activity which you plan for a specific time and place, for instance after work at home. With problem solving, you strive to define the problem at hand, preferably writing it clearly on a sheet of paper. For instance, I don't have enough money to pay the bills. With problem solving, you write down different possible solutions or potential strategies, like ask Sarah for advice, make an outline of income and expenses, call the bank for advice, etc. And lastly, problem solving results in concrete actions. We have provided a simple worksheet that you can use in the process, linked in the video description. Strategy number 7. Use rumination as a signal to engage in an activity. It's much easier to do something than to not do something. This fact can guide your work in curtailing rumination. It's easier to do a specific activity compared to not ruminate. This is a core feature of behavioral activation. Let's say you're watching a movie, but you find that you're focused more on your own rumination compared to the movie itself. This can be a sign that you need to activate yourself. Can you find a more engaging activity that might capture your attention? Find a more stimulating movie. Go for a walk. Strike up a conversation. Do some knitting. Take a bath, etc. Pretend that you're a researcher with the following research topic. What sort of activities can I use to stop ruminating? That was 7 strategies we recommend if you're bothered by rumination. Lastly, we want to distinguish rumination from spontaneous individual thoughts that appear. This is because we really cannot control what individual thoughts come to mind. Let's say the following thoughts pops up. What have I done to deserve this? This thought should come and go as it pleases. But if you start to dwell on this question and continue the train of thought, then this is rumination. And rumination is something you can control. You can say stop to the whole process by using the strategies we featured in this module. Put differently, we cannot control the individual thoughts that come to us, but we can control how we relate to our thoughts. That was it for this module. You can start the next module when it suits you. See you later.